Hello and welcome back from the break. As always, I'm Hunter Filmore, here to recap the world of sports for you on this Tuesday night. To start off this week, we have some next-level Ram news. Nico Carvacho, former center for the men's basketball team, has officially signed his first professional basketball contract to play overseas in Bulgaria for BC Rilski Sportist in the Bulgarian First Division. In his time at CSU, Carvacho scored over 1,000 points and recorded over 1,000 rebounds, finishing his senior season as the Mountain West Conference all-time leader in rebounds and double-doubles in 2019. Carvacho entered into the NBA draft to gauge his stock, but was later withdrew and finished his eligibility out at CSU. Carvacho will make his professional debut as the starting center for BC Rilski Sportist when the new season kicks off on October 10th. In the 2019-2020 season, Rilski was 15-5, giving him a third-place finish in the Bulgarian National Basketball League. Carvacho will provide another scoring option and will help with the rebounding duties tremendously. Let's switch gears a bit from professional basketball to professional football. The Denver Broncos had their first game of the season against the Tennessee Titans last night, ultimately falling in a heartbreaker in the final seconds, scoring 16-14. After a difficult night of kicking, Stephen Gostkowski was able to redeem himself and hit the game winner to defeat the Broncos. Gostkowski was just 1 for 4 on field goal attempts and 1 for 2 on extra point attempts. In the final drive of the game, the Broncos did not use a single timeout and marched down the field on the Titans marched down the field to get into field goal range, allowing the Titans to run down the clock and kick the game-winning field goal with 17 seconds left. Broncos head coach Vic Fangio was questioned on his decision in the post-game presser and stated, "Their field goal kicker had obviously been having his problems. I didn't want to extend the drive so they could get any closer." Fangio received harsh criticism from the sports world on Twitter after the game. When looking at the stats, the Titans defeated the Broncos in every category, recording more total yards, time of possession, and winning the turnover battle 1-0. With a young offense and questionable coaching decisions, the Broncos will need to readjust before the next week on the road against the 1-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now let's move on to every football fan's favorite pastime, fantasy football. If your fantasy team did not perform up to the potential, don't worry, I have some under-the-radar players that you should target on the waiver wire. To start this week off, I think picking up Robbie Anderson would be a smart play. Anderson is only owned by 12% of fantasy owners. Last week, Anderson was 5th highest scoring receiver in fantasy. With 115 yards, 75 of those yards were on one play and resulted in a touchdown. With teams game planning for McCaffrey out in the backfield, Panthers quarterback Teddy Bridgewater is going to be forced to step up and get into the passing game. Though the matchups are not favorable the next few weeks, Anderson is playing against two solid defenses in the Bucs and the Chargers over the next 2 games. He is still a valuable pickup if you are in need of a wide receiver. The next player that I am recommending for you to find a way to get onto your roster is Cam Newton. Last week against the Dolphins, Newton provided that he can still play at a high level and put up consistent fantasy points. With 230 total yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, Newton had the 6th most fantasy points among quarterbacks in Week 1 and has a favorable matchup against the Seahawks this week, who allowed Matt Ryan to throw for 440 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Newton is a dual-threat quarterback that can get you some scores on the ground, For my final player, I think that everyone should take a look at Colts running back Naeem Hines. Hines has 2% owned fantasy rate in fantasy leagues. The first week of the season, he had 2 touchdowns in the first week against Jacksonville. And with the season-ending injury for Marlon Mack, it will be Hines and rookie Jonathan Taylor splitting snaps for the Colts. Hines is also known for his ability as a receiver out of the backfield. And Phillip Rivers as his quarterback is a guy who loves to throw underneath to his backs. Hines offers a good amount of upside in PPR leagues. Well, Ram fans, that's all I have for you tonight. Tune in tomorrow for the first edition of CTV Cooks with Wout Bocart and Krista McAllister. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night.